Pensacola, Florida. If you haven't seen my previous video, it's basically just a comprehensive guide to moving to the great city of Pensacola. Definitely check that out. That's going to be a really in-depth, kind of a broad overview of what life would be like. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk a little bit about the pros, but I want to focus more on the cons of today's video, because all of my content talking about moving to a city, I don't make a video recommending a city if I don't personally like it myself. So there are cons to everywhere. There is no such thing as a perfect location, even on Florida. And believe it or not, depending on where you come from and what you're looking for, Florida could actually have way more cons than pros. So I think it's very important to couple this with the moving to videos so you can get the full honest picture. With that being said, let's move into the pros and cons of Pensacola, Florida. Make me a deal. If you get any value or information after today's video, hit that like and subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Greyson Roberts, realtor and owner of Boss Properties. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in the great state of Florida, more specifically the Emerald Coast on the Florida Panhandle, more specifically Pensacola, you can call, text, or email my company, Boss Properties, 24/7. We don't sleep, and we would love to get you started relocating to your dream state. Now, before we skip ahead, I want to give a brief shout out to long-term Boss Properties sponsor Webull, my personal favorite online stock brokerage, and they have helped me master my money. If you're looking for some free money to kind of dampen the cost of moving, definitely listen up. Webull is giving my audience free stocks. That's 6 free stocks as a sign-up bonus for signing up for their free online stock brokerage that I've been using for 4 years, and I've never paid them a dime. All you gotta do is click the link in our description, create an account, fund that account with as little as just 1 cent. They're gonna put 6 free stocks in your brokerage account. You can sell by the day, make more money, or cash them out into your bank account because inflation sucks. With all that jabberboxing out of the way, let's move into it. Okay, starting with the pros. This is going to be pretty obvious and kind of mirror my moving to Pensacola video, but let's just brush through it regardless. Now, of course, the white, sugary sand beaches with the emerald blue-green waters. I mean, year-round luxury at the most. Some of the best beaches in the world are located in the Emerald Coast. Undisputedly in the continental United States, excluding Hawaii, the Emerald Coast is the undisputed heavyweight champion of sitting at the beach, drinking a cold beer, smoking a nice cigar, sinking your feet from the hot sand into the cold pack underneath the surface, and lounging in the calm, warm waters of the Gulf. That is Pensacola. That's why you're watching this video, and that's why you're considering moving here. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We're all familiar with how beautiful the Emerald Coast is. The second pro is the mild climate. Now, if you're comparing cities from down south, maybe south central, southwest central, like maybe Clearwater or Fort Myers or St. Pete and kind of that area, you'll notice that when I make videos about that in the future, those areas are going to be a lot warmer year round. Now, the water isn't going to be super warm year round. It's going to be the same as kind of up in the Gulf. But if you're down there, still in the Gulf, but farther south, I mean, I go down there and visit in the winter sometimes, and it's, 86 degrees, and you can sit on the beach and jump in the water. And even though the water is still very cold, it's so hot, you can still get in. But personally, for me, why I chose the Panhandle and why it's my favorite spot in Florida is because in the winter, you're going to get an average of 60, 50, 70-degree days, with the low never really dropping below 40 and 50. So on average, you're going to have nice mid-60s to mid-70 days and even some 80-degree days in the winter. So the way I see it is you get to enjoy the hot summers, the subtropical climate, like I always say, the warm summers, all the beach activities, but in the winter, you can still spend all your time outside, but maybe it makes more sense to go fishing, kayaking, hiking, play basketball, ride bikes, do gardening, anything else that you would actually want to be doing physically outside. It's kind of hard to do in the summer, unless you have a pool, which I highly recommend. Next is the lower cost of living. Now, it's not the cheapest place on the quote Emerald Coast, but in my opinion, it is the cheapest place if you're looking for a beach town. I mean, anywhere on 30A, Seaside, Destin, Panama City. Panama City might be an exception, but Destin's really expensive. But basically it's generally kind of realized that Pensacola is a great budget place. It's a city of 50,000 people in the great, like just the area. I mean, it's closer to hundreds of thousands, more like 100,000 in the whole greater area, but it's a much bigger city. It's not a metropolis like, Tallahassee or Miami, nothing like that by any means, but that does mean there is more housing options for more people, which means there are more bad spots of town where you can get really cheap rent. So in general, the cost of living is going to be pretty much the same, but housing costs are going to be significantly cheaper. For example, the average home price in the United States is about $425,000, but the average home price in Pensacola right now is about $300,000. And if you would like to hear more about this next pro, you can definitely go and check out my moving to Pensacola video, but it does really have a strong sense of community. I mean, the downtown is super adorable. It's artsy fartsy. It has some of the better downtown and the whole panhandle. Now, it depends on kind of what you're looking for. You're going to have more tall buildings and less water view. But personally, I am a big fan of the seaside kind of downtown square area. But Pensacola is totally different. It's just a different vibe, but it's still on the water, so you get the nice ocean breeze, the fresh air, and it's just a fun place. But the sense of community, with the population being higher and all those events year-round that I talk about in the other video, there's a strong sense of community. And of course, there is a rich history and culture. More things I dive deep into, I wouldn't say deep into, but I talk about more in depth in my Moving to Pensacola video. But I wanted to brush through those pros. Now let's move on to the cons. Number 1, hurricanes and severe weather. Hate to break it to you, but hurricanes like shallow, warm waters, just like the Gulf of Mexico. It's something that, it's just kind of a normal course of life, but you gotta really realize, like, how probable is a catastrophic hurricane? You know what I mean? Like the one that just hit down south, I believe it was Ian, and wiped out some of the towns and areas that I frequently liked to visit down there. But, it's just a part of life. Florida has some of the best natural disaster preparedness because of this reason. And the good thing about hurricanes versus tornadoes can drop and wreck a whole city in the matter of 120 seconds, right? But a hurricane, you have like a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even longer, sometimes less, notice to vacate. If you have a house on the beach, you're gonna have hurricane-proof windows. You're gonna have all sorts of special shutters. And the houses are just kind of built differently, built for it. The buildings are a little bit different. The street lights, you'll notice they're built a little bit different. So hurricanes and tropical storms is going to be a con, but with the preparedness, and you can even get hurricane insurance, which I'm sure is really expensive in Florida right now, but there are ways to kind of mitigate that risk. Number 2 is going to be the limited job market. Now, Pensacola does have a little bit more job opportunities than the surrounding areas. In fact, a lot more job opportunities because, well, there's more businesses there, there's more people, there's more jobs. It's just kind of inevitable versus anywhere else. You're pretty much going to work at a restaurant, you're going to work in tourism, you're going to work in hospitality, all sorts of stuff like that. So if you are moving a young professional like myself, Pensacola can be a good place. If you're really wanting to just get the best job at the next up-and-coming law firm, you might have to go over to Tallahassee farther east, but for the most part, Pensacola will have a little bit more options. Next is tourism and crowds. This is inevitable, and it's a year-round phenomenon. It's more obviously packed in the summer, but here's my personal take if you were to live in Pensacola. You've got downtown, which is right on the water. And then the area surrounding downtown, we'll talk about in a little bit, is not so nice. There's East Hill, which is a nice neighborhood. But my personal favorite spot is Northeast Pensacola, about 20, 25, 30 minutes from the beach. And it's just a really, really nice place to live. It's high quality, you have all the shopping, the crime rate's lower. It's just a really good spot to be. So that is not touristy. That's where like the residents live. And then downtown Pensacola, and of course close to the water, that's going to be a little bit more tourists live. But I mean, truth be told, Pensacola is different from Pensacola Beach. Pensacola Beach is where most of the tourists go. And we did visit Pensacola Beach just the other day, and it's really not that bad with all the tourists. It's fun. And you go down on that little peninsula, and you got the gas stations, and you got Redfish, Bluefish, one of my favorite restaurants. And, you can really easily escape that if you're an actual resident. And there are a bunch of other smaller beaches, which we'll talk about in a couple other videos, that are more local beaches versus tourism beaches. So just I mean, tourism is just inevitable anywhere that's nice and cool. But if you live in a place like Northeast Pensacola, that's 25, 30 minutes, depending on the traffic and time of day and season from, actual Pensacola Beach on the peninsula, it's going to be a totally different ball game and a different environment. And it's going to feel more like home, if that makes sense. All right, moving into the biggest issue with Pensacola, and I wouldn't say it's a huge issue. I don't feel unsafe in there when I'm around Pensacola. Very rarely do I but like any bigger city, it's not a big city by any means, but any bigger city, especially compared to the surrounding cities, like Santa Rosa that has 15,000 people that live there, and Pensacola has 50,000 that live in Pensacola proper. You're gonna have a more variety of people. You're gonna have more rich people. You're gonna have more poor people. You're gonna have more good people and more bad people. You're gonna have more crime. You're gonna have more law-abiding citizens, right? So it's all about the crime to population ratio. And I would say that Pensacola can be sketchy in certain areas, especially directly around the downtown area. I've never been worried about my safety, but I'm sure there are spots, I don't go into the bad parts of town, but I've seen them and they are bad parts of town, but that kind of goes with anywhere. So crime is going to be a little bit more of an issue versus if you were to live in, like seaside. But obviously the price and the ball game and everything else is a little bit different, quite a bit different. But you can go to other places like Pace or Milton. That's kind of, smaller, more hometown feels if that's where you're coming from. Okay, finally is the public transportation system. Now, I feel like public transportation everywhere besides like, like major cities like New York and Los Angeles and stuff. It's just, you got those bird scooters. Everybody's got golf carts and bikes and cars now. Used car prices are, actually, I guess I can't say used car prices are low because everything's so expensive right now. But, Pensacola does have public transportation, but it's not going to exactly, be where you want, when you want it all the time. Now, I don't have really any personal experience with public transportation. The only public transportation I've taken in my life is in like weird countries where you have to get in a taxi or you have to get on a bus or something like that. So I can't really speak on this too much, but from what I've heard in the research and just observing with my eyeballs, there is public transportation, but it might not be as good as you're hoping for if you completely rely on like a bus system or however all of that works for you. It could be better, it could be worse. It just depends on a lot of different things. But invest in a car. Anyway, guys, that is my comprehensive moving to, oh wait, never mind, that was the last video, my pros and cons list. I really hope that these cons didn't scare you away. I made sure to make you aware of them, but I also wanted to kind of tell you the truth. Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? And what's the deal? So I hope you guys gained some value out of it. If you did, hold your end of the deal up, hit that like and subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. We just passed 800. I absolutely love making these relocation videos and helping clients from across the country move to their dream states, their dream homes, whatever it might be. Give us a call. We would love to help you out. Get the free money with Webull down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.